Blu-ray stacking up, yeah, the collection grows. Singing like nobody's watching, let the good times flow. Movies on repeat, yeah, he living that life. Great guy, big heart, yeah, he doing it right. Screen light glowing while the speakers bang. Sammy G vibing to the scenes and the frames. Love for the art, yeah, the passion stay true. From the first press play to the end credits roll.
Hello all, welcome back to another video and welcome to Sammy G's World of Cinema. Right guys, today on the channel I'm going to be doing part 1 of my March 2026 watches. Again, massive apologies. I have currently come down with a bit of a sore throat at the minute. So I am on that road to recovery from this, but I still wanted to come on camera. These videos that I really want to crack on and do regardless, and because I love making these videos, but I just don't want to fall behind schedule or anything. So I wanted to crack on and do, like, I think, I did my top 10 favourite films in the 90s and then this, and kind of like I thought those were the couple of key videos to make before thinking of doing my Glasgow haul video, my screen ranking, or possibly the screen ranking video might be sometime this month, but I might, oh yes, I've got to do the next episode of the Unwatched Shelf series. So yeah, this is going to be part 1 of my March 2026 watches, talking about the first 20 movies I have watched in the month of March 2026. So guys, I'm going to get right into this now. I've got this all jotted down. Grab yourself a cuppa and we're going to find out what I've watched for the first half of the month. So first off, I had a cinema trip to Cineworld Newcastle to, let me get this camera right there, guys. There we go. And that was to see Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. This was fantastic. I loved this. Having not seen a single trailer going into this, I loved this film. The cinema experience, being there with a crowd of a full house. I was so invested with I was watching on screen, wherever that was. Sam Rockwell as this main character who he's kind of like under bucket loads of pressure and knowing what's to come in the future in regards to like AI and technology. He sees as become a big threat into the future to come, and he warns everyone at this diner. He takes on a new recruited team of characters to accompany him on this vital mission to stop AI or technology taking over the future. And this was such a great time at the cinema. The character work, when you're focusing on like individual characters and their profiles, that kind of reminded me a little bit of the film Weapons that came out last year, but there was just some bizarre shit that went down in this film, and it was done in a lovable light. It was kind of the most original new release I watched in a long while. A film that had about 2 or 3 different endings, but yeah, I didn't really want this film to end, to be honest. I did like the backstory of that main lady who's allergic to technology, and she's kind of like, I think, like a princess for like these birthday parties, and I think she does that as a job. But yeah, really good film, this one, guys. The main 2 school teachers, they had a great like character arc as well. Sam Rockwell, yeah, like I say, gave a top 3 performance in this film. Yeah, it, like me, if you're thinking of watching this film, probably best not to see a single trailer and just go in and enjoy the wild ride that this film's got going for it. So Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Part of the Unwatched Shelf series, I watched Horrible Bosses for the first time. Yeah, I won't spend ages talking about this film because I did talk about part of the Unwatched Shelf series, but I really enjoyed this film. Yeah, very enjoyable, self-aware, witty comedy. that had a great cast to it, you know, Jason Sudeikis, Charlie Day, who I'm not a big fan of, but his character was all right in this, and Jason Bateman, and play all three characters, that best friends that are trying to get back at each of their bosses for feel like they've been thrown under the bus or thrown through the ringer and kind of mistreated at work. So, and you get some really laugh out loud moments. One scene involving where I think they accidentally drop cocaine on the floor and they just want to pick it up anyway. Kevin Spacey just jumping up in the air in anger and his facial expression. Oh my God. It is just such a really entertaining film, and I'm quite interested in checking out the sequel, to be fair, with this one. Horrible Bosses, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. Back into Scream mode I go, and before going to see the new one, I went to go and see Scream 6. I tell you what, guys, I had such a great time with this film. This was so much fun. I loved the New York setting to this one. You could say the reveal towards the end was a little bit ludicrous, a little bit by the numbers, but overall, I still had a really enjoyable time with this film. Again, seeing Jenna Ortega and I can't remember the name of the girl now, but Samantha Loomis, is it, comes back into this after the fifth one. The great to see the likes of Gail Weathers, and this is the first Scream film without Sydney. I think that was the missing link, but I just love the New York setting. There was one really suspenseful scene that took place on this cube, the underground, on this train. And yeah, you can see someone is watching over this character from the fifth film. And again, there was some brutal kills, either in this liquor store by this theatre, or there's one intense scene by this ladder, and this group of friends are trying to go through like the ladder, trying to run away from the ghost killer. And yeah, one intense opening scene again. The New York setting is definitely really succeeds in terms of a great location choice for the sixth film. So Scream 6, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. Then I went to the cinema to go and see Scream 7. And I know this film seems to be like the black sheep of the latter Scream entries, but I've got to say, guys, I didn't think this film was anywhere as bad as I thought it was going to be. I do think it is a bit of your run-of-the-mill sort of typical Scream film by the numbers, but on the whole, guys, I still had enjoyment with this film. I won't say where it's going to rank in my Scream ranking video, but I did enjoy it all the same. Yeah, great to see, obviously, Sydney come back into this film, the return of Woodsboro, great family dynamic there with Sydney's husband being this main cop. Her daughter feels that Sydney, her mother's been a bit overprotective. Again, you've got a really interesting reveal towards the end. And yeah, one kind of intense scene again by this stage play, this like setup with the stage play, and you see the ghost killers just lurking around from each angle and distance. Yeah, and again, you've got a couple of like cameos of there or previous characters. Really cool opening scene in that big house at the start. And yeah, I did really enjoy this film. Again, you got some returning characters from the fifth and the sixth film as well. Yeah, so really enjoyable entry. Again, not a patch on at the original, obviously, all the first two films in that matter, but enjoyable enough. Scream 7, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 there. Then I had a rewatch of You Can Count on Me, directed by, I think, Kenneth Lannon, I think it is, starring Mark Ruffalo, Matthew Broderick, Laura Linney is the actress in there, and yeah, I haven't seen this film for about 8 years or something, and yeah, I did really like this one on rewatch, to be fair. Pretty good, like, indie drama, not the most light-hearted film you're gonna ever see. Small town setting to the film. Yeah, really interesting kind of to learn about this sort of family. Mark Ruffalo's been away for a number of years. He comes back and he reunites with his sister, and he learns that his sister's got a son, that the his sister, like his brother-in-law, like Matthew Ruffalo's brother-in-law in the film is has just separated from Laura Linney's character, and yeah, the young kid in it doesn't really know too much about what his father's like, and yeah, it's an interesting kind of family reunion sort of film, this one. Matthew Broderick was probably, yeah, I would even say my favourite character in the film. Laura Linney and Matthew Broderick, they're not really getting on at first. You know, like, you see him as a bit of a sleazeball of a boss at first, but then you see the chemistry between Laura Linney and Matthew Broderick going in a little bit of a different direction there as the film goes on. Really like the score in this, the subtle score. I loved the scenes by, like, this, I think, that the outback and the fields and that. But yeah, pretty good film, that one. Some very solid acting in there as well. So yeah, the film You Can Count on Me, I'm going to give a 7.5 out of 10 there. A bit of what you could say like a British hidden gem set in Ireland. The guy, again, I think, who played Don Revy in The Damned United, and he played Pat in Alpha Papa, Alan Partridge, that same guy. He's the lead actor in this, and Colin Morgan, the main actress in there, she does a fantastic job in this film. And I've got to say, guys, yeah, this was pretty solid drama, this was. The guy, the main Irish guy in it, he's just, I think, come back from abroad, I think, or from somewhere. He's just come back to Dublin, and he's trying to claim, I think, like, his benefits and stuff. He's playing the waiting game there. And when he's waiting for that, he sleeps homeless in his car. And yeah, just by, like, this car park. And then he is acquainted with Colin Morgan, who's like, again, just he hangs out with this guy who's a bit of a, I think, a drug dealer, and he does a bit, like, he's trying to commit that he wants to quit with the drugs and kind of come back home sort of thing, but he wants to get away from home, I think, in this film. And yeah, he meets the guy again from The Damned United and from Alan Partridge, Alpha Papa. But yeah, you see that kind of, there's a bit of a friendship there, and they yeah, they just hang around, like, I think, like, the streets of Dublin. They meet this piano teacher as well, that, again, the actress does a really good job in this film as well. Really did enjoy this film, guys, and a nice, like, kind of, like, indie drama, and also some kind of, and yeah, you see the main guy, he's starting to have a thing for this main lady in there who's like a piano teacher. And yeah, very solid drama, this one. Parked, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. My very good friend Ash at Popcorn and Horror was talking about on his channel recently, and it reminded me I needed to check out this film. And I actually forgot, in fairness, that Sam Mendes directed this film. And yeah, just the way Ash was speaking about it, he was saying it's like an indie drama. You know me, guys, indie dramas are like my bread and butter. They are like my go-to movies. Yeah, John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph is in there. Maya Rudolph I mainly know from the film The Way Back. John Krasinski, obviously, as Jim in The Office US. So I watched this film, Away We Go, and at first I thought it was a little bit average. It wasn't really doing much for me. But then, yeah, it really got going in quality, this film did. You follow like this, this to-be father and mother. Maya Rudolph in the film, like she's pregnant and she's expecting, and in the lead up to like giving birth, John Krasinski, Maya Rudolph, they go like across. I think they go like, yeah, they go like across the world. They visit like relatives and dear friends of theirs, and and they want to kind of find a new home as well. They learn. I think it's John Krasinski learns that his parents are moving abroad as well. I think, and they're going to be aware when John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph are about to be parents. So, pretty interesting film, but I have to agree with Ash though. The soundtrack in this was really good. If there's anything I can highlight here, folks, the soundtrack probably was my favourite part of the film. However, the story was still very solid. I just enjoyed hanging out with this couple that, again, were about to learn about parenthood, and they're travelling around different places while still learning about this. And I thought that was an interesting take on a drama. So yeah, Away We Go. Very solid drama, this one, and a beautiful ending, I've got to say. I'm going to give that one a 7 out of 10 there. This film, I'm not going to spend ages talking about here, folks, because my God, this film just did nothing for me. It was just a bang average, nothing sort of movie, and that is Benny and Jolene. Yeah, I didn't like this film, guys. It was just a nothing, bang average, Dullsville sort of film. My God, the main pairing in this was annoying as fuck in this film. The other characters did shite all. They were just a bunch of arseholes in this film, where you see a couple of characters that just fighting over like this tent, and I mean, come on, who wear a tent for fuck's sake? I liked the idea when they were going, like on this coach tour on the way to signing this record deal, or like, playing this gig, but they were just bickering and arguing. They were just not likable characters that you could get behind. The way the film started, it felt like a YouTube documentary almost. If it was about them just how they met, and it was just like, they would meet in London and it's them kind of forming a musical duo as well as forming a relationship with Benny and Jolene here, maybe we could have got something good out of this, but they just thought, well, yeah, they're already a musical duo, they're playing these sessions and they're getting interviewed. We'll go on this coach and we'll pick a bunch of arseholes as characters, and they're bickering and arguing. And that's sadly here, folks, the direction they took this film in. And it was just a little bit forgettable. I won't be watching this film ever again. Benny Jolene, I'm going to give a 4.5 out of 10 there. Yeah, this film stinks. We got back on track though, thankfully, guys, with a film that I watched for the first time recently, and that is Keeping the Faith, directed by and starring Edward Norton. And you've got, again, Ben Stiller, I think, or Jenna Elfman, who's fantastic in this film, I've got to say. And yeah, this was surprisingly really good, actually. It's just a great kind of look at, at the start where these three amigos, these friends, three friends that are just, you see how they grow up in the Bronx of New York, and you fast forward like 16 years and Edward Norton and Ben Stiller are each priests and they lead in these Sunday services, but then they learn that a best friend way back when, Jenna Elfman, has just come back to NYC after a number of years. She, I think, works like an estate agent, or she works for this like company, this business. And yeah, you see when they reunite, but Edward Norton and Ben Stiller kind of think they'll have a liking to her more than to be expected, where they actually fall for her when, the knowing that they grew up as best friends, but they actually, Ben Stiller, Edward Norton actually takes more of a liking to her than that. And yeah, really enjoyed this one. I don't think it needed to be the 2-hour runtime, admittedly, but I did just like hanging out with these characters, wherever that's by the Bronx, on New Year's Eve, by Central Park, and it was just a beautiful film. Maybe could have been trimmed down maybe by 15-20 minutes, but still there was enough there to keep me engaged. So keeping the faith, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. X and Y, starring Asher Butterfield, and you've got a couple of like well-known British actors in there, like Eddie Marsan, and the guy who's I think he's like I forgot the main character's name. Asher Butterfield's teacher in there. And yeah, and also Sally Hawkins as the mother. Yeah, very solid indie drama, this one. I've seen this a few times, but haven't been back to it for about probably getting on like 10 years or something. So was overdue a rewatch of this one. I went back to my parents, by the way, guys. And I did watch a few films when I was there, and this was one of them. And yeah, very solid indie drama. I think I talked about this in my British Hidden Gems video that I did last year, and Asher Butterfield plays someone that's on the autism spectrum. So yeah, this is a film that I could definitely resonate with, and he has a fixation for mathematics. He goes to this tournament in China, along with like the other candidates in this film, and yeah, very solid indie drama. I did really like the chemistry between the main science teacher in there and Sally Hawkins. I really liked their screen time, but also when you're following Asher Butterfield in China, and he has he builds a bit of a friendship with that girl similar age to him. I really loved the music to this one, and the scenery in China, Cambridge, and Eddie Marsan. Yeah, he does a decent job in this film as well. So X and Y, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. Then I had a first time watch of Giant Little Ones, the indie drama that came out, I think it was like 2018 or something. And great to see Kyle MacLachlan in this film. I always think of Dale Cooper when it comes to Kyle MacLachlan, but it was great to see him in something else around the similar time of Twin Peaks: The Return. And yeah, really enjoyed this one. This was pretty solid, actually. Good, friendship drama. You see that is kind of meshed with there's a bit of a romantic spell in this film between one main girl character and one main lad character in this film, and yeah, did enjoy hanging out with those characters. And you see that it's led to believe that there's a bit of a betrayal involved. Kind of, there's something kind of sort of like a bit unexpected that happens at, like someone's birthday party. Interesting backstory with, again, Kyle MacLachlan's character, and you learn about his marriage, but then, and you see he goes his own separate way there. And yeah, one scene where, again, the two main best friends, I think that they, again, like sort of like, they're not really getting on at one point in the film. You see how they become distant, how they've been the best of friends for many years. And the guy, I think he's called Frankie, he spends time with this girl, and they start to form a bit of a close friendship. So pretty good film, that one. Giants, Little Ones, I'm going to give a 6.5 out of 10 there. I was slightly disappointed in this film because I know this film, yeah, it's quite acclaimed, but it just didn't really do much for me on this first viewing. I could appreciate it, and the acting was pretty solid all round. It was great to see Pete Postlethwaite in this one, set in like 1950s Liverpool. Distant voices, still lives. Yeah, this one just didn't do much for me on first viewing, unfortunately, folks. I just found it a bit meandering, a little bit middle of the road, not a great deal of story to this one. I get that there is it's got a real serious side, and you are focusing on this family gathering, and they're looking back on their life, and they learn secrets of one family member to the next. You see a couples that are just not getting on at all, and they're just really bickering and arguing on at each other. As I say, guys, sometimes, I think I can appreciate from like the acting point of view, but when you're seeing there's a couple of unlikable characters that are just bickering and arguing, and you don't really care about the characters. Whereas when you look at a Mike Leigh film, there's a lot of characters, okay, some of which do clash heads together, but it's the acting and some of the characters you care about. Yeah, but yeah, just wherever with this film, it just didn't really do a great deal for me. Also, I really didn't like it when, and it goes all like white on the screen, and yeah, it just didn't really do much for me, this film, to be honest. Super damn depressing as well, man. So yeah, Distant Voices, Still Lies. Really glad I didn't get the Blu-ray for this one now. Just glad I just got the DVD instead. I might return to it one day in the future, but not in a mega rush to do so, unfortunately. So I did appreciate it, did admire it, but not a great first time watch for me, that one. Distant Voices, Still Lies, I'm going to give a 5.5 out of 10. Yeah, sorry guys, wasn't for me, that one, unfortunately. But something more I did much more enjoy, and I think it just goes back to how much of a good time I've had with the Friday the 13th film series, and that is Jason Takes Manhattan. Yeah, I know this film's got its detractors. It's not very likeable by a lot of people, and I can see why, but yeah, I don't know. Again, I really just liked how this Friday film took to a different avenue. It shied away from Camp Crystal Lake, and for most of the film, it's set on this boat heading into like Manhattan, New York, and I just really liked that setting. There was some brutal kills on this boat, I tell you. Yeah, like one scene by like, I think it's like this hammock or this bed, and one character, wow, you don't see that coming from a mile off. One insane like ongoing fight scene during like, I think like by the skateboard or the skates park, I think it is. And yeah, did enjoy, again, where they went. I think you do follow this family on the boat at the start, but then you might see a couple of characters make a departure, no pun intended, on this boat. And then and then you find when they're on this boat that one character, you're waiting for kind of Jason to take a couple of victims into his own hands, and then you see Jason without his mask, I think, in this film as well, where he does reveal it without his mask. And yeah, just again, like, you've got a real intense scene at the start with like this couple, and one intense opening scene. And yeah, so it was a good kind of sort of like 180 with this boat setting, but then heading into kind of these streets of Manhattan. So really enjoyed that one. Not as much as part 7 that came before this, but I did quite enjoy this film. Jason Takes Manhattan, I'm going to give a 6.5 out of 10 there. First time watch of, a Jim Carrey comedy that I've not actually seen, to be fair, until now. And that is Fun with Dick and Jane. Obviously, I've watched pretty much majority of Jim Carrey's comedies, but this is the one I kind of watched for the first time. And yeah, Fun with Dick and Jane. Yeah, this was not too bad, actually. Jim Carrey, probably the best part of this film. I mean, he's what really held the glue together, I guess, of this film. And Leone is in there as well. And yeah, just have good, like, kind of off-the-wall chemistry. There's a good family dynamic in this one. You've got, Jim Carrey that works for like this branch, this company, and he learns that there is secrets that unfold and they've been hidden from the law. After all these years, it comes out that it is a bit of a scam, a little bit scandalous. And he's preparing for the worst, that his family home could be in a bit of a state of affairs, a little bit of a drastic sort of position, and it puts their family through the ringer. Jim Carrey then has to make some real tough decisions. Either he just like lets his family home go to pop, or he can basically just, like, continue to go on this, he wants to go on this like kind of robbing or criminal spree, and to basically stop the kind of like that the FBI or this organization kind of take a grip and get hold of it, the family home, and they have to take matters into their own hands. And yeah, it's a pretty decent comedy, this one. There was some good like action, like set pieces. There'd be some good scenes where they'd just be like running across like these streets, or where they just there's a bit of confrontation involved between Jim Carrey and his main boss in this film. And again, some family dynamic in this film. One interesting scene as well where they'd just be like in this garden at night time. And so Fun with Dick and Jane. Now, the film, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 there. Then I went to the Market Pavilion in Blythe to go and see a film that is known to be a bit infamous and just not really doing it for a lot of people. And it's getting a fair share of criticisms. And that is the film, the latest retelling of The Bride of Frankenstein. So The Bride. I quite enjoyed it. I know, right? I don't know what it was, guys. I probably just had such a good day at work. I was enjoying, like, my day, and maybe this just hit me on a good note. It just hit me on the right day, and yeah, I could see why this film is getting fair share criticisms. And I must admit, when the film started, I wasn't sure I was going to like or enjoy this film, but I think when we got, to Frankie and Ida, the bride in there, and they're kind of like, just, like they're just like running away, and they're kind of on the move, they're on the chase, and there's these detectives that is on their back. It kind of made a bit of a wild goose chase. I think that was where I was enjoying the film the most, but also just, yeah, like the scenes by where they'd be at the movie theatre, a bit of the backstory with the main cop in there. I think it's Penelope Cruz and Peter Sarsgaard. I must admit, it's getting a bit criticised because I think it's just like there's just a lot of hates that goes on towards a lot of like the characters in this film, and yeah, just again interesting experiment at the start led by, I think it's Annette Bening as well. Jake Gyllenhaal, not the most memorable of characters, admittedly. He was just like mainly in the background sort of thing, but he plays like this producer, this director. And yeah, again, there was some really cringe dialogue here and there. Like Jessie Buckley had some very cliche, a bit sort of drab dialogue in there that you kind of shake your head at, you scratch your head thinking, yeah, some of the dialogue in here is a little bit ropey. And I must admit, the Frankenstein here didn't look the best, but Christian Bale did put on a decent performance. He just did what he had to work with because some of the scripts and some of the dialogue was just a little bit iffy. But I did enjoy the screen time between Jessie Buckley and Christine Bale in there. Some of the cinematography was nice actually, and yeah, there was a couple nice scenes like by the nightclub and that, and obviously some zany like lightning effects, some kind of like flashback sequences or breaking the fourth wall, which yeah, those aspects were quite interesting, I guess. And yeah, I mean, the film maybe could have been trimmed down by 10 minutes. Some of the editing was a little bit ropey, but the film, I quite enjoyed it for it just being like kind of a different sort of set button for this like Frankenstein universe. It was a different take from, like Maggie Gyllenhaal's point of view, obviously in like the director's chair. But yeah, really enjoyed the production, and yeah, I just enjoyed kind of watching Frankenstein and the Brides just running away from the law. Again, there was a couple of naff scenes in there, but one where Peter Skarsgård, I mean, he just aims to fire, and then like obviously when he's got like a gun and he aims to fire, and he's just a little bit half-arsed at one scene, but yeah, enjoyable film in my opinion, but I'm probably in the minority with that one. So The Bride, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I really enjoyed this film, to be honest. I'm in the minority, I know, right? Something I will say that was definitely better though, and again, I had a first time watch of a music biopic this time. I watched Gets On Up, the James Brown biopic. Really enjoyed this one, watched it part of the Unwatched Shelf series, and yeah, I did talk in more depth in that episode, but really good, great ensemble cast with Chadwick Boseman, who probably gives a top 3 performance in this as James Brown, Lenny James, Viola Davis, Dan Aykroyd, Craig Robinson. The list goes on. It's just a fantastic cast, and Alison Janry as well. Just yeah, a great cast, and really did found it interesting with the time jumps and where you focus on James Brown and how he's growing up in Georgia, and then how his claim to fame was when he was 17, when he was with the Famous Flames, and his friendship with I think is it Robbie Bird, I think it is. So, and they had great chemistry, but really enjoyable film. And yeah, very interesting to learn a bit in depth about James Brown. So get on up, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. I went to the Market Pavilion for a double bill with first one being the latest Disney Pixar film, Hoppers. I enjoyed this. I've got a soft spot for Disney Pixar. And this was just so self-aware. It knew what it was doing. And it was such a creative idea for like an animated film. The use of like beavers as well, because there hasn't been many like animated films involving beavers, I don't think. And I did like kind of the whole blend between technology, what this land is kind of under a great deal of threat, and you're rooting for this main girl to get her own way. She's got a lot of fond memories with her grandmother in this like nature park, and she wants to do all she can to save it. And then she she really kind of looks out for these beavers and these wild animals, and she wants to save this nature park. And yeah, just the crossovers between characters, the transformation scenes were pretty interesting. Really enjoyed the animated style to this one as well. And yeah, very uplifting, light-hearted ending to that one as well. So Hoppers, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. Then I watched Mother's Pride, a British gem indie flick, and really enjoyed this one as well. Yeah, very cool, self-aware film that again knows what it's doing, and it's a very solid watch. Martin Clunes, who you see at the start like he's a bit of a he's a little bit of a grumpy man at the start. He's just very, he's not really getting on with his son when his son has just run away from home for a number of years, like a period of time. James Buckley plays Martin Clunes' son in this film, where Martin Clunes' character's son, should I say, and he's just split up with his wife in the film. He's looking after her, like his daughter, and yeah, and then you see Martin Clunes' his son in the film returns after a number of years. He's like a musician, and there's like this bittersweet rivalry going on between both of these main two pubs in the village. Very charmful, very light-hearted. Just one scene where this cow is just chasing across this field. It's so funny. And yeah, the main guy, the other guy, who I think was in like, I think he was in the film The Coral that came out last year. Very cool, like, side character to this. And yeah, you're rooting for this family to keep their pub and their business open. And yeah, there's just a lot of, it's just such a feel-good British film, this one. The film Mother's Pride, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. Friday the 13th, I wanted to deliver a review, and I decided to watch for the first time Jason Goes to Hell. I'm really looking forward to getting onto Jason X next, folks, because I very much enjoyed this. This was such a fun time. A very much of a 180 for the film series. The first Friday film on New York Line Cinema, a first-time director with Adam Marcus here. The look of Jason, the transformation scenes, the Voorhees family dynamic, and yeah, just some really like quirky, off-the-wall scenes in there. Loved the scenes by the diner. Some brutal kills in there. The ending that kind of left an open door for what's in store for Jason X, which I'm looking forward to checking out for the first time as well. But I get why this film gets a fair share of criticisms, but I just took it as another Friday film, went along with the ride, and I had such a delightful time with this film, I can't lie. So Jason Goes to Hell, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 there. Fantastic film. And the last one to talk about for this video, for part 1 of my March 2026 watches, was a first time watch because I bought the Blu-ray recently. And that is Atonement, and what a fantastic film this was. Oh wow, guys, this was utterly marvellous, but at the same time, pretty devastating stuff right here. I think this was like a debut role for Saoirse Ronan. I think James McAvoy, Keira Knightley definitely, you know, like deliver great leading performances in this. You've got Benedict Cumberbatch, Brenda Blethyn. Yeah, she's really good in this film as well. With the scenes, I think she's not really in the film a massive deal of it, but she's does pretty good in this film as well. And yeah, just you see kind of this tragic sort of story and how it unfolds and unravels when one character mistakes something or someone for someone else that is involved in this incident, and it really just flips the film on its head. You see this film fast forward like 4 or 5 years after when it originally takes place in 1935. And yeah, the wartime scenes are devastating when you see Keira Knightley and James McAvoy that are distant from one another. And yeah, you see how things just unravel and unfold. You see Bryony when she's a lot older, and she's reflecting on what happened when she was younger, but she's got a long way to go to really kind of get things right and try and make amends, but there's something just holding it back. And the acting, the cinematography is stunning. The music is fantastic. Not 1 minute of this film I was bored or checking my watch thinking, woof, when are we going to get on to the more, you know, like what's going to happen next here? But I really, really enjoyed my time. I don't know if enjoy is the right words, but really good periods drama. And yeah, not going to have a lot of rewatchability just with how incredibly moving and devastating this film is. But one I really appreciate, one I would return at some point in the future, but would have to be in the right mood for it. And yeah, just a fantastic film this was. Brilliantly directed by Joe Wright, who directs this film. So yeah, that is Atonement, and I'm going to give that an 8.5 out of 10 there. Do let me know in the comments what's your thoughts on any of these films, and yeah, like is any of these films you're interested in checking out? And what's your thoughts on any of these movies I've talked about here today on the channel? I'd love to know all of that good stuff in the comments down below there. So yep, and I'll be back for more content soon, and hopefully my voice will improve soon. So thanks for watching, cheers for stopping by, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, lights low, screen glow, Sammy G in the zone, let him know. Sammy G strolling in the shot like what's new. Steel cases shining, yeah, you know what to do. Another flick in his hand, yeah, it's coming back home. Shelf getting heavy, but the passion's full grown from classics to the wild new scenes. Director's cut life, yeah, he living them dreams. No dust on the vision, just loving the frame. Every movie got a memory, every memory got a name. He don't chase clout, he chased that art. Cinema running deep, straight part of the heart. Press play, let the world fade out. Singing every word like nobody's watching now.